Mhm. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being a part of this group. I'm Monica, and this is Jessica.
Hi.
We were both in last night's discussion in person, and we had a great time. I think everyone that was there really loved it. And so we wanted to jump on for a couple minutes and just share some things that were shared in the live discussion last night so that everyone online can be a part of what everyone talked about and that sort of thing. And then you can share your own thoughts as well. So if you haven't watched the video yet from last night, the session 1 video by Lysa Terkeurst, then you need to go on this group, search videos, and watch the actual 30-minute video that we talked about. That way you can be on the same page as us when we talk about some of these things, because we're going to refer to the video a lot. We're also going to be using our study guide as we refer to some of these things right now too. So if you have your study guide and you want to watch this video with us and discuss with us, this is a great thing to pull out as well. So the whole session 1 was about the birthplace of disappointment, and Lysa begins the whole session 1 with talking about the Garden of Eden, Genesis, the beginning of the Bible, the first everything, and where the first disappointment really began, where sin happened, and how we're right now living between two gardens. You know, there's a garden at the beginning of the Bible, and there's a garden at the end of the Bible, and here we are in the middle. And what do we do in the meantime? Not, you know, we're made for perfection. We're made for, you know, living in eternity with God, but we're on this planet, you know, living a very imperfect life with struggles. And so how do we balance all that? So we'll just kind of jump in with some things that we liked last night and share some things that other ladies brought up so that you guys can hear what they had to say too. So let's see. We started with...
What page are you on today now?
I'm on page 13 in the study guide. And Lysa broke down, starting in Genesis 2, she brought to our attention that the Lord formed just Adam first, and then gave him the rule, you know, don't eat from any other tree in the garden. I mean, you can eat from any tree in the garden except this one. Mm-hmm. And he used the word, you are free to eat from any tree in the garden. And she pointed out that God speaks in a language of freedom. He doesn't speak in a language of restrictions the way the enemy wants to make us feel. And so she starts with, you are free to eat from any tree in the garden. And then Eve comes along, and the enemy twists God's words and says, did God really say you must not eat from this tree? And so right there she points out that Satan, the father of lies, tries to always make God sound like he has all these crazy rules. He's a God of extreme restriction, an unattainable God that you'll never be able to please. And that was my favorite takeaway from the whole lesson, was that he's a God of freedom. And anytime he says, you know, do not do this, he's really saying, do not hurt yourself. I know what's on the other side of this, and any precautions I've put in place is for your good. And so she talks about how if we filter life through the perspective of God is always good, then when disappointments and things don't go our way and stuff gets you know, thrown in our lap that we don't understand, we'll understand at least that God's doing this for my good somehow. I don't know what it is, but he's still good. So that's kind of a recap of the video, and then it went a little bit more into detail on some things. So I'm going to see if Jess has anything she wants to add.
Well, the same thing with, because Eve came after the rule. So she was told the rule through somebody else, which is where I always had a hard time, is I was told about God through somebody else instead of just reading about God myself and learning about him and his goodness. Mm-hmm. I was always taking somebody else's viewpoint and definition of God, and which I agree, of course, going to church and learning about God, but just taking it on myself, like going home and studying it. So now Eve has this hearsay of what Adam heard from God. And so now she puts her own assumptions on it because she really wasn't there to hear what God said in person. And so I think we do that a lot, is we put our assumptions on things and we let people speak into our lives and maybe take too much reign over our relationship with God, because they're like, you know, God says to do this and that, and he's this way. And so like I never got to experience God's full goodness until I finally stopped listening to everyone around me, and I dove into the Bible myself and got to know him.
Yeah, one thing that was brought up was like the outside world judges the Bible and God based on other Christians. They don't actually look into it for themselves usually. They just think, oh, I know that one Christian and, you know, they were mean to me once, so everything in the Bible must be a lie. And it's crazy how much stock we put into what other people say and do rather than getting to know God ourselves and getting to know his character and experiencing him on a personal one-on-one relationship basis. So that was a great thing last night. One of the things that was brought up as a joke was someone was like, so basically it's all men's fault. He was the one that God created first. He was the one God gave the rule to, and he still, you know, took the apple that Eve gave him, or the fruit, you know, even though he knew not to.
Maybe he didn't like fully relay the message well to Eve.
Right. So men are bad communicators. Anyway, so we got to joke about that a little bit because it's funny, as you know, women, we kind of pick on guys sometimes. But the truth of the matter is the enemy loves to see men and women divided and pinned against each other. And it was an interesting thing to bring up, because if men and women can find their position of strength the way God created them, then we wouldn't think it's all the men's fault, and men wouldn't think it's all the women's fault. We would be a force to reckon with if we worked out things together. The enemy loves to isolate us away from one another, and you know, us say it's all the guy's fault. The enemy knows how hard his battle would be if men would step up and start walking into the calling God has placed on them as strong, mighty men of God. And so we want to make sure that we're not pointing fingers and passing blame to men, but coming alongside of them and encouraging them and edifying them as the suitable helpmate that we are created for them to be, and encouraging them to walk in their calling too. So it was a funny joke, but the reality is, can you imagine how strong we would be if we united with men and walked into our calling together? So I love
because of the serpent and Eve listening, one of our curses as women, we always go back to our childbirth is going to be painful now. I always remember that curse, but the curse I always forget about is we will try to rule over our men. So because of the devil, and like, I know in my relationship, I try to roll over. It's just, it's in us now, thanks to the serpent and Eve listening. And so to try and remember that, and that's what the devil wants. He wants us to try to rule over our men, because that's not our role. Right. And so we need to act in our role.
Yeah. He wants women to push men into a passive position where they don't have authority and they don't have the strength that they were designed with. But really, women are the strongest when men are at their strongest too. And so strong women help build up strong men. Strong women don't put down men. That's not how it was designed. So I liked that concept got brought up last night. It was a great discussion piece. So feel free to share your thoughts on that in the comments too. So we talked more about the video, and we talked a lot about the you must not versus you are free, and the language between, you know, the way God speaks in freedom, and then the way the enemy twists everything into making us think we can never achieve all that God has for us, and we'll never make it. And he's just so restricting, and you're going to miss out on so much if you're a Christian. And so, you know, we kind of got a close look at how much of a lie that is. And I enjoyed that. One of the other cool things, we're on page 14 in the study guide now. One of the cool things that was brought up in the video was when, after sin finally entered and God casts out Adam and Eve from the garden. The word that they use is banish in some translations. Some translations say he sent them out, whatever. But she brought up the Hebrew and Greek meaning of that word. And it's actually the same word that was used in John 3:16 when he said God sent his son here to be the savior of the world. And so that was a great discussion
I wrote that
topic.
Down. Yeah, I wrote that down because I had never heard it put. God sent Adam and Eve out of the garden because he loved them too much to let them stay. So because now we have this tree of good and evil that was eaten from, but they also have this tree of life. And she was going over that a lot. And I was just like, it's just it's another thing that you always kind of pass over when you're reading. Because Genesis just, I think, is a very popular.
Every verse matters so much.
Yeah, like there's so much in every verse that she pointed out last night that I saw, and so he had to send them out. And there's so many instances that I can think about with my kids where I was like, I have to do this. I know you hate me right now for it. I know you don't get it, but I have to do this because I love you too much to let you do it a different way. And to see God in that perspective. It makes me feel more related to him, and it just makes me feel his love so much deeper than I've ever experienced, hearing it the way she explained it in the video.
Yeah, and it brings a really good perspective to times in our lives when we feel like we got a no from God, or we got disciplined by God, and we take it hard, and we're like, how could he do that? How could a good God that loves me do something like that to me? But then in the next breath, it's the same motivation and same love and same command he gave to his son when he sent him to come save the entire world from the tragedy of sin. And so it's a perfect example of how God works everything out for our good. And if we are looking through everything with the perspective of he loves us, he has perfect love, and he only wants perfect good things for his children, then we start to see things like mean words like banish in an entirely different way. We start to see things like loss and pain and abandonment and hard times. We start to look at them through a different lens, a lens of, okay, if God does love me, then I trust that he's using this for something good, for his purpose somehow. And I'm going to just rest in that love and in that my trust in him.
Well, so many people look, I think your dad might say it a lot, but if you're looking for the negative, you're going to find the negative. And so when you're going through that why God moment, stop looking for all of the negative things and start searching for the goodness that is promised to us. Because you can get down on yourself and you can just see, well, I've got a flat tire and my kid is being rebellious right now. And the thing's just going to add up because you see them. But while those are so visible, there's also so much goodness that you're masking yourself from. You need to open your eyes and see, because it's promised to us. It's there. We just need to see it.
Rachel Greeley, she's actually in this group. One of her comments last night on the discussion thread was her favorite part of the book, where Lysa says, if you want God's promises, then you need to trust his process. And that's just a really succinct way of kind of putting into words what we're trying to say. Like, we want what God has for us. So we have to be patient and trust that he is God, and he's got a plan for us, even when we don't understand, even when it does hurt. And so I was really glad that the first day of study and discussion was still really to the point and powerful. And we got a lot of really good things out. It was awesome. So there was so much we talked about. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit to start studying and reading on your own and make you feel comfortable discussing things here. And we had such a good discussion. I didn't want you guys to feel online like you missed out. So we wanted to bring a little bit to you. But really, there's so much. And I hope that for the next week, up until the next Thursday, that you guys will do the rest in the study guide. It looks like this. I'm going to show you if you can see. It says personal study. So for the next week, do the next couple pages of personal study. And then when we meet next week, we'll be talking about all the days of personal study we've been doing, because I think that's when a lot of revelation will be given to us, and we'll be able to discuss things, and after we've really taken a look at our own situations. So I'm just living it already, and it's only day 2. So I hope you guys are too. Jess and I will probably jump on here every now and then, because we're besties. We also go to the small group together and we work together. And so it'd be nice to get you guys' feedback and have you guys comment and let us know how you're enjoying the study, because we talk about it all day. We're already obsessed and loving it, and learning so many new things and studying new words that we're learning and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and y'all feel free to like comment as we're on the live feed because we can see it and we'd love to interact.
yeah, if you have questions while we're talking, just shoot us a thing. I'm new to all this live video stuff, and I'm a millennial, so I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, this is fun. There's no filters for these.
Yeah, like where's my doggy ears and the
no filters,
like the dog, you know. Talk about. Anyway, all right. Well, thanks for spending 15 minutes with us on this Friday morning, and we'll pop back on here maybe a time or two before next meeting. And if you guys can make it in person on Thursdays at 5 o'clock, we would love to have you, and I think you'll have a great time. But anytime you miss, just feel free to interact on here as much as you can. All right. We love you guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye.